Oh yeah, I started, don't I? All right, let's get.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
you.
why is it Meg talking? Oh, that's right. I think they started. We're keeping that in. That's a blooper. We're gonna keep in.
I
First
love it
time in what 2.5 years? I'm like, oh, it's right. It's my turn.
so
Oh
much.
my goodness. All right. We spent a lot, guys. We spent a lot of time talking beforehand, so it kind of does. It could throw me off.
Yeah.
That's the excuse I'm gonna go with. By the way, everybody, if you haven't watched, if you've been watching for a while, new Legos in the background.
Yes, some cool Legos.
Yes.
Very
So
cool.
on today's episode, we're discussing why we went vegan and why we continue to stay vegan. Which, if you're
And other reasons for going vegan as well.
yes, and if you're a first time listener, as I throw it back to my great aunt who said it that way, I thought it was adorable. I love her to death, so I keep that alive in certain conversations.
I love it. I love it.
How can you not?
So there's a lot of reasons why people go vegan. And then sometimes those reasons are different for why they continue to be vegan. And I'll use myself as an example. So I went vegan for health reasons so that I could feel better on a daily basis. I was feeling really run down. No matter how much sleep I got, I just was always tired. I had a lot of brain fog, and it just felt like I was like heavy feeling all the time. So I went vegan just to see how it would affect my health. I also suffer from really bad headaches, and they used to be substantially worse than they are now that I'm vegan. They used to be migraines every time. Now they can just be a regular headache instead of a migraine. So it's a huge freaking improvement in my life. So I went vegan for health reasons, but the reasons that I stay vegan have to do with animals, the environment, and my own health. So there's multiple reasons, and you kind of learn those reasons as the more you're vegan, the longer you're in this lifestyle, you kind of learn more things. And what's that saying? If you're exposed to it, you can't forget it, or once you see it, you can't forget it. So
Right.
once you learn the truth about what happens to animals on a daily basis in this country, um, you kind of continue to stay vegan for other reasons than perhaps why you went vegan. So,
Yeah.
David, why did you go vegan?
Yeah, I was bored. See what happened. Be crazy. No. I went. Bullshit. No. I went vegan. I went vegan for science,
Oh,
which is
love
exact
that.
which is how she blinded me. A lot of people know that.
Oh no.
Blinded me with science. No. No. So I went vegan for actually no. So we both talked about this briefly on the other episodes. So I went. I don't know why I sit like this. It's weird. Um. I did some therapy too. I sliced in therapy. I don't know why. So I went vegan for science, really. So I used to argue against it. I had a friend in college who was vegetarian, then she went vegan, and we used to like not debate it, like not like in a mean way, but like asking questions, like here's my foot, my foot. Uh, and so I was like, well, I'm an educated man. I should know better. I should do research. I can debate this. Blah blah blah. So I did. I went to the interwebs and started researching all the reasons I thought made sense and looked at her counterpoints and was like, okay, here's find the holes in her logic.
Right.
And I was wrong. I couldn't. I was like, well, because we have canines. We don't have fun. We have fun canines.
Right.
Like and even a
Debunked
canine.
yourself. I love it.
Do what?
You debunked
I
yourself.
did because like, oh well, canines is a bad argument too because so do hippos and horses and gorillas and all these other plant animals. So you can't use canines as an argument. It's kind of crap. I was okay. Well, even incisors, other animals. So and so when looking at teeth, it's like, oh well, we have grinders. Like meteors have rippers and shredders. We have actual grinders, right? Okay, well, our stomachs are designed or not designed. I'm an atheist, so I'm not designed, but like are
Right.
evolved
Right.
for this type of thing. Not really. It's not like it's not. It's our pediatric stomach can digest both, right? If you're a predominantly meat eating animal, which we're animals, it's not. So it's like if you looked at the pH level of a meat eater and like a really strict omnivore, the I can go on about this obviously. So physiologically, evolutionarily, didn't make sense. Like okay, well we have large brains, our brains evolved, because of we were hunters, right? No, our brain's fat. Our brain was evolving. When we started cooking tubers and carbohydrates. Like, so I really couldn't find a reason. Like, okay, well,
Right.
I started like basically not arguing about it anymore because I couldn't. I eventually started arguing against myself. So I stopped talking about it as much. And then I learned more about, and then I started watching more documentaries about like environments, factory farming, that sort of stuff. And so I went originally for science. I realized I know too much. I've answered all of my questions and found the opposite to be true.
Right.
So on July 4th, almost 10 years ago, I took a bite of chicken sandwich. What, this is stupid, and spit it out. And that was it. Um, and I've stayed for the health too, because I also learned how it gets for health, how it gets for joints, and you have less inflammation. I turned 40 last year, and I have no medications. I go to the gym. Megan and I have talked about how like I don't get some of this like oh, waking up when you're 30s, and like people are like, oh, my back. Like I get up in the morning, and if I'm sore, it's because I went to the gym the day before.
Right.
Like my back was sore. I'm like, oh, I was like, oh, that's right. I did deadlifts, and I also did Romanian deadlifts, which caused me to pull my shoulders back and tighten. So I did a bit of back workout. That's all right, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a lot of the health ailments that people in my age tend to either already have or start to get.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I came for the science. I stayed for the health and the animals, really.
I love that. That's so David.
It really
Such a
is.
David answer.
It is
I love it so much.
science.
Let's talk about animals. One of the main reasons that people go vegan is to prevent the exploitation of animals and the murder and slaughter of animals. Um, and it's very odd to me that some vegans will bash other vegans if that's not the reason that they went vegan.
Right? If you're not vegan for the
Happens
animals,
very
then
frequently, and I'm gonna call out the vegan community right now because I find this very, very stupid that you are going to talk crap to other vegans when they chose to go vegan for other reasons besides animals. Of course, they care about animals. That's duh, that's a given, but that doesn't mean that has to be their number one reason. Like that, not, I don't give a crap why you go vegan. I don't care.
what?
Literally have zero concern why. I'm just glad that you do.
Well, the animals don't care either.
No,
Like
they don't do shit.
if you told me I hate animals, I don't give a fuck about them. I don't care. Screw them all. But I
Right.
feel better. Good. Don't care. Fine.
Yep. Totally fine. Totally
Because
fine.
you're still helping them indirectly, so that's cool. Or even directly.
Right.
You know, you be like, I went vegan because I hate vegetables. I don't give a shit about anything else. Okay, I just want to eat them all and just rip them all to the ground. Vegetables are so bad. I want them all to be not annihilated. So I'm gonna eat them all. Okay, I mean that's weird. It's a weird, that's a weird flex, but you
Oh
know,
no, that actually made me laugh hard. Oh my
I,
goodness.
okay, cool.
Right. I don't care, but there are a lot of vegans that get very upset if you don't go vegan for animals. But here at the average
Well, they're
vegans,
wrong.
we don't give a shit why. We just want you to be vegan. That's all. So, estimated every year, 80 billion land animals are slaughtered for food. That's a B, billion,
Right.
guys. And here's some other little stats because there's certain things we haven't really talked about on the podcast. So, millions of animals die in transport every year in the US alone, things that perhaps people don't think about. Just moving animals from one place to another, they die all the time just in that transport. Those trucks are hot as fuck. They're all crammed together. It happens very frequently, and that's probably something that most people don't even think about.
Well, I worked for that nonprofit. This was, I think we had a campaign. It was in Canada, but it's still North America, so I feel like somewhat relevant. We did a campaign in Canada because and all the campaign was is to get heating elements inside transport trucks for pigs.
Crazy,
This is terrible, guys. I apologize, but it's reality.
right?
Because pigs would freeze to death, and they would get frozen to the side to inside of these trucks, and then they would get ripped. They're like limbs would get ripped off, so they're pulled out of these trucks and sent in to the
Crazy.
to the slaughterhouses. So we had a campaign to get a law passed that required better regulations for these pigs. These had some sort of comfort on the way to their demise. I mean, and again, it's terrible. It's like, yeah, yeah, I get they're getting killed, which is horrible. You're not. I'm not going to debate that, obviously.
Right.
But in the same vein, we can at least give some sort of,
Comfort, warmth.
comfort and
Mm.
humanity. I don't know if I
I
can better
mean,
word.
imagine.
Um,
Yeah. I feel like people don't really think about the transporting of animals and how they die in just those extreme temperatures, extreme conditions. Another thing we haven't really talked about too much on the podcast, and I really think we should do a whole episode on how chickens are abused in the egg industry, how they are crammed into what are called battery cages, which I didn't know the exact name of these cages, but now I do. They're only a few feet wide and 15 inches high, leaving no room for a chicken to spread their wings or to move around, to interact, to be a normal fucking chicken.
right.
They're just crammed in a tiny little thing, all of them together. And oh God, it pains me. That's probably the trucks I've seen more in my life transporting is chickens. And it is the most traumatizing thing because there's like hundreds of them in there.
Right. It
Oh,
goes it gets
fucking
much
awful.
bigger too, because even the ones that are like the cage free just means not in a cage, right?
Right,
And I won't go too deep on this because we can't do a whole show on this.
right.
But cage free means a cage. It just there's just they're on a floor in a barn, but that's it, right? And those chickens, those birds, they have their beaks removed,
Mm,
cut off because they're so tightly packed. They get they peck at each other. They can kill each
yeah,
other, right? Or themselves. They harm themselves because like, wouldn't you rather like,
yeah,
if I had conditions like just take me out, I'm not gonna do this,
right,
right?
exactly.
There can because of that they're also getting a lot of antibiotics, things like that too, because there's a lot of disease that gets around. Actually, one big reason that you had this big egg shortage and all these prices went up is because bird flu, because they're so tightly packed and they're in the battery cages and everything else, and even free range. That just means there's a door where they can go outside, but they're also usually they can't get outside. It's there. It's there if they can, because some of them they're bred to have such large breasts because it's what people tend to
Mhm.
go for. They can't. Their legs break under their own weight.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
again, I can go on and on. I'm not going to, but yeah,
Um, there's actually a practice that's banned in Europe, and it's where hens are forced to molt in order to replenish their reproductive systems. I had never heard of this before because, like, I've never really
huh?
dove in too much into the extra details of chicken abuse. I already know enough. I don't want to get into it too much, but like, that is, it just makes me think of the dairy industry, and it's just repetitive the way that they torture these animals.
Yeah,
It's heartbreaking.
it's abuse, abuse, abuse until you can't get what I need out of you. Then I'll just kill you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which leads directly into talking about the dairy industry, which is a main reason why people will go vegan as opposed to vegetarian. Once you learn about the horrors of the dairy industry, it's very difficult to then go and eat some fucking dairy. I just can't.
yeah.
So talked a lot about this in episode 63, so we're not going to like go too in depth into it, but we have a whole say no to dairy episode. um we also have like a dairy milk episode, which is a really good one too. Just want to throw that one out there because we tried some crazy milks that day. David, tell us about the dairy industry because you do this so much better
I'm
than I do.
sorry. You can see it in my eyes. I'm like,
I know. You're
yeah.
just so good at talking about this part, and it upsets me.
Well, I can't say my favorite thing. One of my things I kind of like doing to people when they're like, "Oh, I could be vegetarian," because like like no one dies or for dairy, right? No one that's no one's slaughtered, and I go, "Oh, cool! I can tell you how this works. So I can watch
Oh.
a little bit of life die in your eyes." And I'll tell people like how this works in a very clear way, and
Right.
just like, and it's never very like, "Oh, here's how this works. Here's how dairy works."
Mm-hmm.
And just look at them, like, or I'll say it and kind of say it and just kind of walk away, like, yeah, here you go. And there's something in their eyes just go, boo, just kind of turns and goes
Yeah.
away and burns out. So to paraphrase, kind of how this industry works. And again, my mom grew up, and my mom's not vegan by any stretch. She said she wasn't, and she's like, that's what they're here for. They're here for us to eat. And I grew up on a farm, blah blah. Right. So I've heard all the
Mom.
excuses, and and what I'm about to say, everyone's like, "Not the farm I've been on. That's a family farm. They love their cows." Okay, so first off, that's even if that's true, it's circumstantial evidence. Somebody has 3 cows and they produce cheese. We can argue and like whatever, right?
Right.
This is
Hmm.
we're talking about like 98% of the dairy industry is what this is. There's like 1 or 2% that has like three
Right.
cows, and then when the baby goes, whatever, right? We can. I'm sure there's circumstances. There's exceptions to every rule. Anyway, to get that out of the way, just want to get that out of the way. So, generally speaking, cows are mammals,
Hmm.
and milk is to feed what?
Babies,
Right. And as a mammal, to have a baby, what has to happen?
they have to get pregnant.
Right. So, and if you're drinking the milk, that means the baby's not.
That's right. That's right.
And for mama to be pregnant, it's not a when a mama cow and a daddy cow fall in love. It's not what happens. It's when a mama
Oh.
cow gets shoved into a what's called a rape cage,
Hmm.
which is an industry term, and that's what happens. Forcibly inseminated, and there's plenty of videos and 4-H clubs where we're doing it, showing how it works. Forcibly inseminated, she gets pregnant. They take the calf away. The calf sometimes will get taken away completely, or at first and sometimes they're even if they don't get to them soon enough to take them away from the mother, they have a ring, which much like what I have in my nose.
Hmm.
They have a ring that goes around that prevents them from suckling. They're taken from the mother and they're put into veal cages. Veal is baby cows.
Yep.
Put in veal cages, and they're kind of fed like a protein, like basically fed formula, like you would feed a baby human, right? If you didn't have if you didn't have milk or you can't produce, or
Right.
maybe you've adopted and you're not producing, whatever, right? So you have formula for whatever reason, right? Um, and then the mother cow is milked, and she's likely bred to overproduce.
Hmm.
When she can't produce more, this repeats, and the cycle repeats. Um, and when she's not able to produce milk at all or become pregnant again, because she's a mammal, there's only a certain amount of time like she can do
Which
that.
can.
She is shipped off. Many people who live near dairy farms have complained and moved and things because you can hear the cries of mother cows when they're
Mm.
taken away. It's a mammal. They take care of their young, so they know that they're pregnant. They know when they've had the baby. They know what should be happening, right? And there's plenty
Same.
of plenty of videos that where like especially if I think Farm Sanctuary has taken in mother cows. They didn't know they had already given they just given birth, and they would just
Right.
cry and cry, and they're like, all right, we got to find the calf, and they hunt down the calf and get it out of the veal farm, and then they
Oh,
reunited, and it feels so good.
those are
Like,
some of the best videos,
oh man,
though.
because she's just crying the whole time, and she's
Oh,
like, my
yeah.
baby. Oh yeah, and they frolic, and it's adorable.
Oh, so.
So yeah, they're mammals. They're forcibly impregnated. Babies are taken away from their mother. We take the milk from them to make milk and cheese and yogurts and all that fun stuff. Fun stuff. Um, I did air quotes for those just listening. Um, and the calves are killed for veal. The mothers, when they can't produce anymore, they're killed for meat. There are some calves that we kept for like to replace their mother, or will become the sperm donor essentially.
Ugh,
But that's very, very, very rare and far and few between. So,
awful.
so anyway,
And
there
I
you go.
feel like once you learn that, for most people, I will say there are exceptions to the rule, but once you learn that, for most people, you cannot go back, right?
No,
So the animal abuse and torture and murder is a big reason why people go vegan. And no matter what, like we said, no matter what your reason is, in the end, you're saving animals' lives, you're keeping them from being tortured. So again, we don't give a crap what your reason is, but animals and protecting them is a major reason for going vegan. And it's a reason that a lot of people stay vegan because, like we said, once you learn these things and you're exposed to this information, it's really difficult to unlearn that. It's
right,
really difficult to like go back to the world and just like, oh, it's dying. No, it's not fine. You learn things and your reasons kind of change, and that's wonderful. That's how life should be. You should learn, you should grow. And you're going to learn a lot about your health as you go vegan. So that's one reason why people take this change of life. The reason I went vegan. So let's talk about what happens to your health when you go vegan. And I'm not going to talk about weight loss because that's not a given. That's
no,
not a reason why you should go vegan. Um, like it's not like automatically you're gonna lose a bunch of weight. That's not really how it works because you can, you can still be a junk food vegan and not lose weight. So we're not going to talk about that. Let's talk about some other great things. So there have been a lot of studies. I'm going to read this little stat because I find this really interesting. In a 2009 study, 43% of participants followed a vegan diet and they were able to reduce their dosage of blood sugar lowering medication, like for diabetes, compared to only 26% of participants who followed an ADA recommended diet, that follows the pyramid that we don't believe in. So 43% were able to reduce their blood sugar lowering medication. And I find that like to be a wonderful stat for people to really kind of set off the health benefits. So there have been studies that show that you get lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, lower rates of heart disease, lower rates of type 2 diabetes, and lower rates of certain types of cancer. Obviously, you're not a superhero. I wish. We can all get sick. We can all get diseases just like everyone else, but there is a much lower chance of that when you follow a vegan diet, especially the longer that you follow this diet, right? It's not like it automatically, your body kind of repairs themselves. Oh my gosh. Tiny break for the pretty little black kitty in the background, everyone.
Chop chop.
Oh, so
Oh,
cute.
big yawn little kitty.
I love it. I love it. So I felt automatic health differences. Like in the first week, I felt very different physically. I definitely had more energy. I was able to sleep better. My headaches were way less. Like it was a very quick change in how I felt. The energy levels are definitely much higher. I felt clearer. Like I could understand things a little bit better. And for women, I will add that my cramps during my menstrual cycle are much better now that I'm vegan than before. I have debilitating periods, but since going vegan, they are not nearly as bad as they used to be. Like it's probably more than like a 60% improvement. So that's a big difference for me. And for a lot of women, I think that's a huge difference. David, tell me about some health benefits of going vegan.
Um, Typically lower blood pressure. And it does help with type 2 because basically I'm trying to put this. You typically tend to have a higher fiber intake. Higher fiber intake is contributed to lower blood pressure, a massive reduce in your risk of cancer, especially colon cancers. So colon cancers, breast cancer, prostate cancer, really anything involving like would consider like male female parts. I'm
Right.
not getting to the right now, but fluidity, right? But men can get breast cancer, so it's not a woman thing. But
Yeah,
like guys,
absolutely.
men
Absolutely.
can get breast cancer. We don't do seriously, right? Also,
Right.
if you're obese and you tend to have man boobs, there's a proper name. I can't remember what it's called. Um, but you have a higher risk of getting breast
Right.
cancer because you have more tissue there, so it tends to make it right. So, but breast cancer, testicular cancer, ovarian cancer, and colon cancer are greatly reduced. And dairy is first three dairy is a big contributor because there's a lot of like estrogen, other hormones that come from a mother cow. They contribute to testicular, prostate, ovarian, and breast cancer. Uh, Colon cancer gets greatly reduced because we are mammals, and what we eat, with energy comes waste. Food is energy, and so that tends to sit in your what you eat tends to the byproduct tends to sit in your colon for a while, um, and it's also like animals who are very heavy meat eating. I wouldn't say dogs are a little closer to us as far as they're scavengers. They can have a different diet. Although my dogs eat, Benny's all vegetarian. My other dog Kodak, he's half. He still eats animal based hard food because he's not mine. I wouldn't switch him over unless I knew he was
Right.
mine. Um, but like their need to go potty is not as great because of their digestive tract and their diet.
Right.
But animals who tend to eat a heavier animal-based diet, animal food diet, tend to have smaller colons and
Oh,
smaller digestive tracts. So they have to go more often. If you eat a plant-based diet, you tend to have a little bit larger colon, larger digestive tract, so that material
interesting.
doesn't sits in your system a little longer. That's also why animal-based products, if you're a large consumer of those, have a tendency to cause colon cancer because it sits in your system longer, right? So that causes, and it's rotting, it's deteriorating, it's a waste,
Right.
it's rotten food, right? Um, anyway,
Wow.
so
I
yeah,
did not
so
know
yeah,
that.
so and there's also quite a few studies. I think somewhat recent, it's one of the things like I read these things and watch these like videos and stuff, so I can't just pull the study done by such during this year. Um, but animal based diets can also contribute to dementia as
Oh,
well
goodness.
and other brain diseases, and basically causes blockages in the brain that leads to
Right.
this, and also hard like things like not calcifying but hardening certain areas of the brain
Mhm.
that lead to dementia and I forgot the other term. That's funny.
Oh
Um,
my God.
I did, but it has lead to memory issues.
Oh,
I had a long day at work. Okay, that's my excuse. It's late for me. Anyway, um,
no.
anyway, that's the irony of that. So speaking of a dog, I got one coming muttering. Go lay down.
There's a lot of studies you can
Yes,
find that go into like specifics about
right.
certain health benefits,
I could
but
go all
you're
day.
going to notice.
Yeah. And also in general, you notice I have vegan athletes, and I've noticed too when my changes, your recovery is better, inflammation is
Right.
down, you're just overall endurance is just better because you tend to have yeah, I have better breathing. If it's just kind of all improves because you're gonna breathe a little better because you have less inflammation. So you're gonna breathe a little better,
That
and
way
it just
I do better at the gym sometimes than my husband.
likely, yeah. You have
I'm never as sore as him. Never. And we do the same workout.
it would it would be interesting to have him like have a straight plant based diet for like a few weeks to see
Right.
how he feels. I think changes for him as far as like endurance and strength goes, and stiffness and soreness.
Right.
Muscle recovery. How long is he sore after a workout? And when it comes back, because like mine, I get after my third day, I'm like back at it. I'm good because like you get DOMS. DOMS is a natural process of
Right. Yeah,
weightlifting.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Interesting.
so all of these things is again lowered inflammation because animal-based products tend to like, especially dairy,
Hmm.
tends to increase muscle inflammation, retaining of water, joint inflammation. And so you remove that. You also fiber helps move a lot of that stuff out and keeps you from having inflammation. So
Another reason that people go vegan is for the environment. And this is a huge one. And I feel like before you're vegan, perhaps you don't understand the environmental implications of animal agriculture. It's it's something that is almost hidden from you, I guess. It's not really something that's talked about very often, but once you go vegan and you learn about what happens to the environment in order to keep all these animals and kill all of these animals, it is shocking. Shocking. Um, I love this saying, and I have to read this because I think this is really interesting. A study published in the Journal of Science in 2018 found that the most sustainable animal-based products are still much worse for the environment than the least sustainable plant-based foods.
huh.
Love that. Love that so much. And I also saw that the researchers concluded that like a vegan diet is the single biggest way to reduce your impact on the planet. So we were talking about how, there's a lot of things that we are told that we should do to help the planet, recycling, not taking your car as often, things like that, whatever. But in reality, if you're just going to go eat a hamburger anyway, you're
Right.
not making as much of a difference as you would if you went vegan. So I have some other specifics because I like stats.
Oh, I know you
Love
do. I like them too. It's like delicious. Like nom 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 nom.
find these so interesting. I feel like this also leads people to kind of making this decision when you hear these intense stats that I'm about to yell at you. Okay, so according to research published in the Proceeds of the National Academy of Sciences, I just like to, call out these wonderful publications. Air pollution from factory farms kills more than 17,000 people annually. And, and this is the that part I had no idea about, just the pollution killing people just like near those factory farms. But animal agriculture is the worst emitter of pollution related like emissions.
Mm.
80% of deaths from pollution relation is because of animal agriculture. It's really gross because
Oh yeah.
I hate talking about this. It's so gross to me. So like cows fart a lot and they poop a lot and their waste causes all kinds of gross stuff in the environment. I say it like that. David could bust out with like the technical scientific terms, but I just say their farts and poop make it gross in the environment. I'm so eloquent.
It's methane.
I should be fired from this podcast.
You're
Just
fine.
kick me out, David.
It's methane. It's actually more harmful to the environment than CO2.
It's so gross. Just imagine that oh God, the most problematic part of the environment is animal farts and poop.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. It just blows my mind. Oy, oy. All right, let's talk about global deforestation too. So this is interesting to me because I think it's another thing that people don't think about. You have to clear land to house these animals. You have to clear land to make crops to feed these animals. So we're just making more and more spots to house animals that we're going to kill for food. It just seems so, I don't know, like such a waste. It's such a waste of agriculture. It's such a waste of space. It's a waste of crops that could be fed to people. And in these poor animals, they're held in such horrible situations, but you still have to clear all this land in order to hold them in those horrible situations. And it's shocking to think about because I don't think that other people really, the concept of the fact that you have to feed all these animals, I think people really truly skip over that part. Like it doesn't ever compute because like it didn't for me. And I never really got the concept until I went vegan that, oh my God, you actually have to feed all these animals, at
Right.
least for a short period of time. Like that never occurred to me, the amount of land it takes, the amount of crops it takes to feed animals that are then just in turn going to be murdered. It's
Exact.
so stupid.
And especially in the areas where this happens, like everyone thinks like, oh, all of my meat comes from my whatever comes from like American. No, it doesn't. It
No.
doesn't. Um, there's like a rule for something to be made in America. It has to be like assembled here.
Mm-hmm.
That like it's like made in
Yeah.
America. It doesn't mean like everything. It makes you could literally get parts for like say my mouse right for my computer right
Right.
here, right. It doesn't say it. I'm sure it's made in China, but like if it said made in America, like every single part could I can't find actually. I'm sure it's in the box, but as long as if every part came from 15 countries, but the mouse was put together in America, it gets the made in America stamp, right? So it's likely that your beef or whatever you got, your cow came from somewhere else, but it was processed here. It's like that. That's
Right.
that that that
Mhm.
that, that happens, right? So um, the deforestation especially happens in countries like Brazil, where they're taking down the rainforest, right?
Yeah.
And what they're doing is it's called clear cutting. They just clear cut areas to do what you're saying, to
Right.
graze livestock, to grow food for the livestock, and then eventually that land won't produce anymore, much like the mother cow. So they have to move on, and they cut down more forest and more rainforest and more trees and clear out more fields, and cause more devastation to just continue the process of something they already started. Um, it was funny. We talk about the land part of it, but it's not only that; it's also the antibiotics
Yes.
and medications that are used on livestock, and they change names for it. Things like no antibiotics are used. Okay. Um,
Mhm.
but and there's also there's some regulations of what can and can't be used, but that really matters. Um, but there's so much antibiotics, medications, and supplements. B12. People think vegans low on B12. Just because you meat doesn't mean that's why you're not low on B12. First off, most people are.
Right.
Um, but it's because the animals are supplemented, just like I supplement with B12.
Exactly.
It's just
Mhm.
you just got it from a secondary source. I got it from a primary source. So,
So,
um, but yeah, it's a continuing issue, and it's one of the biggest things. All that leads to erosion. It leads to we need trees to clear out the atmosphere. They're created by cow farts.
oh
Uh,
God, kills me.
right. Well, that's CO2. But yeah, it leads to climate change, which is real. You can at
Mhm.
me. That's fine. 98% of the scientists say it's real, so I hate to break it to you. Um, I can break it to you. It's real. I'm being stupid.
That's right. That's
Um,
right.
but so and that contributes to climate change because then it causes the greater global warming, which contributes to hurricanes, contributes to fires. Blah, blah, blah. You know how climate change works. So
I have another stat. Are you
everything is
ready?
terrible. What?
Oh, it's crazy.
What's that
Um,
one?
the 8 billion animals being raised for their flesh and secretions, that's a way of putting it, in the United States, use half of the water
Yes.
consumed in the country.
No.
Just, just let that sink in. Half the water is consumed by the animals that are raised to be murdered for you. That's fucking nuts.
Yep.
That is nuts.
I was looking.
Blows me away.
I was looking at some stats here. I said water's a good one.
It is. It's really insane. Half of the water, that blows me away. And I feel like once you start being exposed to this kind of information, what happens to the animals, what happens to your
Mm-hmm.
body, what happens to the environment, the decision to go vegan is pretty easy.
Right.
Um, it's not that hard once you are exposed to this information. At least it isn't for me and most of the people I know, because once you learn this detailed information about all these different aspects of the world, you can't ignore it, you can't forget it. And it makes a huge difference in staying vegan and keeping you on that path, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that you are helping the planet in some way, you're helping your own health, and of course, you're saving animals' lives. Duh. It really helps keep that why at the top of your mind because that's an important thing to remember when you're vegan. We kind of sometimes eventually it just becomes your life, right? And
Right.
perhaps you're just going about your day and you're just, not eating animals and being great. But let's remember the why and why we're doing
Oh,
this
for
and
sure.
what it helps and like what differences it makes because I think that's a big part of us as vegans speaking up for animals, speaking up for the environment is we have to talk about that. We have to talk about these changes that we can make. So, yay. I love this episode.
I do too because we can talk about stats and sciencey stuff. And the reason I went, these reasons, the sciencey reasons, is why I pulled up before we end. I pulled up the some numbers. Um, so again, yeah, you always look up the numbers. Numbers are going to be a hard set. They're going to change based on what you're reading. Also, be aware of your sources. This was looked at very quickly, but I'm looking at other sources compared to what I'm looking at. They're about the same. So this one is how much gallons of water required to make 1 pound of food, right? And animals aren't food, but I'm just reading off the chart, the graph. For a pound of vegetables, it's 39 gallons. Fruits is 115. A pound of milk is 122. Eggs is 391. So a pound of eggs takes almost 400 gallons.
Oh
A
my
pound of
God.
chicken, it's 518. A pound of pig is 717.
Oh my God.
Nuts is higher, which is weird. 1086. Beef is just shy of 2,000 gallons for a pound of beef.
Insane.
Yeah, think about that.
Mm. It's infuriating, truly. It's
Yeah.
infuriating.
So that means when you get like a quarter pounder of cheese, it took 500 gallons to make that. Just
Just
just the just the cow part. Um, we
insane.
we talked about land earlier. So as animal-based diet, plant-based diet, land use, on a standard American diet, it takes two football fields to feed one person a year to for uh, animal-based diet.
Hmm.
On a plant-based diet, it takes two football fields to feed 14 people.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
It's nuts.
that's
Oh my
yeah, it exists because there's avocado and there's nuts and there's carrots and stuff.
God, he's such a stinker.
Just like a bonus fact, nuts are not a good source of protein.
Okay.
Nuts are a fat. Stop eating like protein.
That's very true. Very true.
It just irks me. Like, I'm gonna have some nuts as a snack. Get some protein. They're fat. Stop doing that. Most of the calories in nuts kind of and soybeans are not nuts, but they're legumes. But yeah, and this also I'm also including peanuts in this too. But yeah, stop eating nuts for protein. It's not protein. It's a fat source. I say the person who will probably go downstairs after this and eat a spoonful of peanut butter.
I mean, peanut butter is different than peanuts. You just go there.
Okay.
Let's end it on that.
All right.
I hate peanuts. I love peanut butter.
Okay.
Let's
That
see.
makes it. I love peanut butter. I love them both. So it makes everybody feel better. I'll go with it. I'll suspend my science to have that one.
I think this has been a wonderful episode because
Always.
a lot of the stats and a lot of the things we talked about, if you're new to veganism, you may not know this information and it could really push you to continue this lifestyle. So I really encourage you to listen to this episode, share it with your friends, anyone that you think might be interested in going vegan, because we want to help more people make this decision. And if this episode's not going to do it, I don't know what will. So and they can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, and anywhere else you get your podcast fix. Make sure to leave us a review, pretty please, and recommend us to your friends, your family, coworkers, strangers, your best buddy. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Average Vegans, or email us at theaveragevegans@gmail.com. You will find show notes, links, and all that stuff, more about these stats on theaveragevegans.com. We'd love to hear your vegan story. We've heard from a few of our followers and we love it. So we want to hear any episode ideas you have and your reasons for going vegan, anything we didn't mention today. But that's about it for this week.
And also we are on YouTube, so like, follow, click the bell, all that
Never
stuff.
gonna remember that
I'll,
crap.
I'll add it to your spiel. So, all right. Yep. Until next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.